Hello and welcome to TARGA Tasmania 2003. We are going to take you on the ride of a lifetime around our beautiful island, Tasmania. It involves a crew of thousands, drivers, navigators, mechanics and crew, and let's not forget the mouth-watering display of motoring that makes this event so unique. I'm here at the Country Club Resort in Launceston as the cars head away on the 2300 kilometre tarmac rally. For the uninitiated, TARGA Tasmania is one of the very rare opportunities around the world to drive performance in classic cars as their maker intended. The field spans a myriad of automotive marques, from the pre-war Amilcar Grand Sport Racer to the latest offerings from the world's leading car manufacturers. In all, a field of almost 300 cars in 5 days of competition. Our man on the ground mixing it with competitors in this year's event is Nick Dygan.
Thanks, Rob. Yes, well, this is where it all begins. Cars being waved away from the line here. And as ever, we've assembled some of the great names in Australian motoring. And for the first time, our celebrity navigator, the voice of Formula One for 50 years, Mr. Murray Walker. I caught up with him this morning. Murray, welcome to TARGA Tasmania.
Thanks, Nick. I'm achieving a life's ambition to getting here. It's great to be here.
Now, Murray, I guess the voice of Formula One for so many years. What has brought you, what's prompted you to have this first crack at TARGA?
Well, two things. I've had a great image of Tasmania itself for a very, very long time, and it was an ambition to get here, so that's an ambition achieved. And I've always wanted to see the TARGA Tasmania. I never ever thought I'd have the good fortune to be taking part in it, because it's described as the ultimate tarmac rally, and I've seen enough to realise that that claim is absolutely right. I'm very lucky to be taking part.
Now, not driving, but navigating. What specifically do you know about navigating?
You could put what I know about navigating on the head of a pin and still have room for the Empire State Building, to be honest. I've never done it before, but I'm driving with one of Australia's greats, Colin Bond, and he's just going to be relying on me to do a bit of timekeeping. I'm going to be looking at the scenery of Tasmania at high speed as we go by. No, but seriously, I'll be doing my best to help Colin, but I'm on a very steep learning curve.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck, and we'll watch with interest as you make your way around the TARGA course. I'm sure Colin Bond will be getting an interesting call as he does the steering. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Nick. But as we all know, Murray Walker was an absolute legend in Formula One, and let's hope he enjoys his debut in TARGA Tasmania. Well, in fact, TARGA is made up of 4 separate competitions within the event, one for the historics and another for the classic vehicles. This competition is further broken down into a touring competition. Lastly, there is a modern competition, the pointy end. Some of the top drivers and navigators campaigning state-of-the-art GT cars. Vehicles race the clock on specially designed TARGA stages. Base times are set depending on your competition and category. You need to beat that time or get as close to it as possible, bearing in mind there are 44 of these stages over 5 days. There are many teams that come here to win TARGA Tasmania, and at the top of that list would have to be Jim Richards and Barry Oliver. They've won the event no less than 6 times, but that's not to say they've never been challenged. Barry Oliver takes a look at the main rivals this year.
Hi, I'm Barry Oliver, and this is my 10th TARGA Tasmania, and I'm navigating for Jim Richards in the OAM's Porsche. This year, Jim Richards and I will be going for our 7th win in the modern competition, but we're certainly facing some very tough opposition. South Australian team of Steve Glenney and Clayton Lang are coming here this year with a different car, much quicker, and they will certainly be pushing for a podium spot. Tony Quinn and Keith Wen will be lining up in a car identical to ours, and they're certainly going to be very competitive. The local team of Jason and John White finished 3rd to us last year, and this year with the new Nissan, they're sure to be very, very competitive. The unknown quantity for this year's event will be Peter Brock in the modified Monaro, and who can tell where Brock will be on day 5.
As we all know, Brocky will certainly be giving his all in the big V8 Monaro. Well, the first stage to let the cars do the talking is at the Georgetown prologue, TARGA Tasmania's version of qualifying.
The Temco Prologue is a 4.7 kilometre sprint around Georgetown. Cars are sent out in approximate slowest to fastest order. The open-top historics give way to the classics, with the big guns from the modern competition last onto the course. One title that no one wants is that of First to Crash. Australian television personality Glenn Ridge picking up that award when his RX-7 lost its way.
What happened?
It's autumn and the roses need a pruning. It's simple as that. We just there was a foot problem, I guess. The foot didn't listen to the head somewhere along the line, but it just went a bit crooked.
The much-awaited navigating debut of Formula One institution Murray Walker was a rather sedate affair. The normally ebullient broadcaster not uttering a word over the course of the entire stage.
No, he didn't say anything at all, which I said was a bit of a surprise. And he said at the end, he said, look, it's the first time I've ever been, and not said a word.
Turn right, 2.
Things were a little more frenetic on board the Holden Monaro, driven by touring car legend Peter Brock. In its most serious challenge yet, the General Motors heavyweight finished the stage a modest 15th fastest. Brock promising better things to come.
I predicted it somewhere around about that sort of mark. The car was brand new, the brakes were brand new and everything else, so I was just, got into it. I thought, oh, not quite ready to go flat out yet. Maybe tomorrow.
Fastest classic over the Temco Prologue was Len and Gail Catlin in their 67 Ford Mustang.
Orange 1600s aren't my favourite cup of tea at the moment. Why, did you get it on film?
I saw a very agitated big yellow car trying to eat it. Yeah.
I don't know whether to give him a bump or not, and I thought, no, better part of Ella, don't do it.
They were nearly 3 seconds quicker over the 4.7 kilometre course than Steve Code in the 72 Monaro. Bernie Stack in the 69 Porsche 911 rounded out the top 3. As expected, Porsches featured heavily on the timesheets. Turbo 911s filling the top 3 spots. Rex Broadbent third in a time of 3 minutes 19.77. Tony Quinn a further 5 seconds ahead with a 3:14. But heading the list, 6-time Targa winners Jim Richards and Barry Oliver. Even a punctured right-hand front tyre couldn't slow the pair. Car 919 posting a time of 3 minutes 13.37. Well, Jim, another very, very nice lap around Georgetown here. How was it out on the road?
Yeah, just like normal, really. It's a matter of just running the car, bedding the brakes in. The tyres are new, the brakes are new, so you don't really try too hard, but you want to try hard enough that you can come out with the quickest time, obviously.
There's obviously a little bit of ego. I can't remember a time when you were knocked off here, despite all the humble naysaying. You must give it a fair old punt out there.
No, listen, we're here to try and win the event, but what I do say is that if we don't win, we'll be happy to come back again. We're not going to slash our wrists, but everyone's here to try and have a win, and we're no different. But we take it in a relaxed style, and if we win, we do. If we don't, we won't be too unhappy.
Now, you had some sort of tyre trouble. I noticed you changed the tyre early. Just what was the problem?
No, we just got a sharp stone or a bit of whatever, and just punctured the tyre. So we just had to put the spare on.
And is that likely to cost you anything?
No, it won't, because the competition hasn't actually started yet.
Okay, Jim, we'll see you when it does out on the
No
road.
problem.
Our fastest in the Temco Prologue, Mr. Jim Richards. Thanks. What's your favourite sort of car?
I have to say Holden.
Who are you barracking for?
I don't know.
Jimmy Richards drives a Porsche.
Probably him then.
What's your favourite part about Targa?
The cars racing?
So you're barracking for Peter Brock and Targa?
Yeah, every Targa day. Yeah.
What sort of car would you like when you grow up?
I have to say a Porsche.
Would you like to be in Targa one day? Why not?
I might crash. I can't drive.
Welcome back to day one of TARGA Tasmania and a glorious start to the event proper. But while the cars are flagged away, one man that's hoping to improve on yesterday's 15th position in the prologue is Peter Brock. Now this year, Holden have provided Brocky and teammate Stephen Richards with a high-powered lightweight version of the V8 Monaro. It's a combination the head honchos at General Motors hope will be enough to break the Porsche stranglehold.
Serious about Targa in 2003. The Monaro is back and it's angry. Under the bonnet beats its most potent weapon. In 2003 spec, the 5.7 litre V8 is delivering almost 300 kilowatts to the back wheels. Leading the charge is Holden legend Peter Brock. After finishing off the podium by a matter of seconds last year, he believes the Monaro's time has come.
It will be lighter and will be slightly more powerful and slightly more grip. So whether it's enough to actually attack those Porsches, not too sure, but it will be better and it'll be good fun.
Brock is joined by two-time Bathurst winner Stephen Richards in a second factory-backed car. Richards looking to improve on his previous Targa attempt. Driving only the rear wheels, the Monaro gives away a lot of grip to the all-wheel drive cars from Porsche, Nissan and Subaru. It's a disadvantage that's magnified in the wet. Experienced rally navigator Anne Gigney will sit in the left-hand seat of car 05.
Just keep it neat.
Her task to keep Brock on the
150.
straight and narrow.
Caution.
Well, all I can say is I'm having to do this with a navigator who's totally lost the plot. You know, yells and screams, and I was going through that special stage there before, had it cranked up sideways, waving to the crowd, and she's busy talking to me about what corner's coming up. I said, don't talk to me, we're dealing with the public. What are you doing?
The Monaros are lighter, more powerful and have two of the country's best drivers on board. More than likely it will be a Porsche that stands between them and Targa victory.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're hunting Porsches. We're right onto them. We're going to get them. No worries about that.
Well, today's competition should be good for the Monaros. Jim Richards was 1 second quicker around the 4.7 kilometre prologue yesterday. Today, the chasing pack has 60 kilometres of Targa stages to try and keep up. As is the Targa tradition, Lagana on the outskirts of Launceston is the opening stage. The field head northwest through High Plains and Moriarty. After lunch, the competition hots up. 5 Targa stages through Devonport, Nook, Sheffield and Quamby Brook, before the ever-popular street stage through historic Longford. Well, something new for all competitors this year is the introduction of chicanes. A safety measure implemented by the FIA states that cars must not average more than 132 kilometres per hour over the course at any stage, and all 10 chicanes have been introduced to the Targa course.
Stage 1, Day 1, Lagana. Cars are flagged away for what is a comparatively easy morning. The base times are high and by lunch there are 200 teams with a share of the lead. But just because it's easy doesn't mean everybody gets it right. VJ Angelo, the first to falter, a little hot on the entry to a left-hander on the Moriarty stage. Matthew Hunter also struck trouble on Moriarty, first to spin, then the ignominy of having to push start his own car.
Pulled the handbrake on, thought I'd be smart, got caught, battery not powerful enough and it just wouldn't start again. So, faithful navigator jumped out and gave me a push. No one else would.
The Devonport stage is the first where teams lose time, and for an added degree of difficulty, the weather was having an impact. Light rain making the road extremely slippery. Queensland doctor Jason McMillan unable to remedy his Lotus's chronic case of oversteer.
The bridge was slippery, as they told us, but just after it there's a little dip, and it was extremely slippery, and their tail just got away from me, I think. And we were just straight to the scene of the accident.
The Top Guns were having more success. Jim Richards fastest through the key stages of Devonport, Sheffield and Quamby Brook, the Master dropping just 65 seconds overall.
Some very slippery stages, which seem to be okay for us. So yeah, no, we're quite happy if we can have a bit of a lead going in till tomorrow. We'd be happy.
The big surprise came in the shape of Peter Brock's blood red Holden Monaro. Despite the handicap of two-wheel drive, car 05 had jumped 14 places up to second position, poised to strike just 13 seconds behind Richards. Pete, the talk of chicanes, any problems there today with your first look at them?
No, I think I was pretty slow through them. I thought as the days go by, the last chicane or so in that Quamby stage, I actually accelerated right up there hard and jumped on the brakes late, and I thought that's the way to do it, Brock. I'd been a wimp in the earlier ones, so worried about the 5 minutes I was sort of idling in there, and I think that's not the way to do it.
Just 5 seconds further back, the Porsche of Tony Quinn, the Queenslander holding third place, 12 seconds ahead of hard-charging Tasmanian Jason White in a Nissan GTR. And the key to it, I guess, is just being there or thereabouts, just keeping a little bit of pressure on him. Is that the hope?
Oh no, we want to put a whole lot of pressure on him by the end of the week. But like I say, it's something that we're working up to. We can't just sort of jump straight in there at the moment. But we're pretty happy at the moment. We think we've got what it takes to maybe get there. So we'll see how we go.
Jason and John White had crashed their car just 3 months earlier in the Rally Tas and had actually spent no time in the car since its rebuild.
You know, it was the first time we'd driven it in the wet today, and you know, we're just playing around and fine-tuning, and you can't sort of simulate on the dyno what sort of air is going to go through the intercooler, and because it's a very small intercooler, you know, it's a fine line of what it's going to run and what temperature the engine will actually take, and detonation is something that kills engines. So being that we have to run it at a fine line to get anywhere near the Porsche sort of thing, I mean, you could turn it down a little bit and run the event all day and be safe not blowing an engine, but you'd be running around in 5th or 6th spot, and we're not sort of too keen on that.
So you've got it pretty well cranked up? Yeah,
we're sort of really happy with it now. We've sort of made quite a few inroads to the way it's running and learning to drive it as well. So like I say, it was the first time I got to drive it in the wet today, and through Devonport, and sort of took it a little bit cautiously, sort of slipped a few wheels, but then before the start of Sheffield they said she's greased light and up over the top, be careful, and we nailed every single corner on it. So I'll be interested to see some times. We felt really happy after especially Sheffield.
Well, day one of TARGA Tasmania certainly has been packed with excitement, with Jim Richards holding a narrow lead in the moderns. But the classic competition is where the bulk of the field resides. It's the heart and soul of TARGA. You got Minis up against Mustangs, Austin Healeys and Aston Martins. And as usual, this year they've been shipped out from around the world to take part in TARGA Tasmania.
The classic competition is not all about big engines and muscle cars. Take Henry and Rosalind Draper. Their 1 litre Mini pumps out about 60 kilowatts, not enough to pull the skim off a custard, and yet the husband and wife team are consistently in the top 10.
Pretty competitive this year, you know, there's people going very, very hard out there, so maybe us old coots will just have to, you know, ease along and perhaps a top 10 finish if we're lucky.
They say spending a week a year locked in the cramped confines of their mighty Morris is just the thing to promote a healthy relationship.
She said for a whole week I get to tell him where to go, and he listens.
At the other end of the spectrum is John Skippon. His ESO Revolta is very fast, very expensive and very rare.
There are only 19 right-hand drives ever made. This was number 4, and they're just an unusual car because of what they came out with. So they had a lot of Corvette bits in them, and So 1964, something that had forward disc brakes and a fairly big front motor was quite unusual.
Stephen Code reckons there's a bit of rev head in everyone when he fires up his 600 horsepower 72 Monaro. It's hard to disagree.
And I love the fact that the crowd likes the old muscle cars. They love to see the old Monaros getting out there, and they love, people serving them up, making a lot of noise, a lot of tyre smoke, and that's what the event's about, isn't it?
This is the extreme end of the classic competition. Everything is big. One of the most spectacular cars going around is that of New Zealanders John Kershaw and Jane Buckman.
That one there, that was good. That was good. It's fabulous to be able to skirt around the streets here. It really is.
Veterans of TARGA New Zealand, where they won the classic competition in 2002. Currently sitting in 16th spot in the classic competition. Fellow international entrants Martin Hancock and Patrick Bowling of the United States were not having as much fun in their 1960s Alfa Romeo Giulietta Sprint. The team had won their class in the gruelling 2001 Carrera Panamericana through Mexico, but they were finding the going tough on day one.
We nursed it from lunchtime till all the way back, but I think one of the stages we stopped twice on it, so I think we went over our time, so I don't think that's not a good thing.
Threw a bunch of parts at it, see if it works tomorrow.
On the road, it was one of the less exotic cars that was leading the way. Another classic outright victory on the cards for you guys?
Well, we're going to give it a go.
Going hard?
All the way.
Queenslanders John Siddons and Graham Copeland in the Datsun 1800 had pulled a 39-second gap ahead of Tasmanians David Cooper and Heath Clayton in a Tirana XU1. Ian Morris from Victoria was third, driving an Alfa Romeo GTV6, a further 14 seconds behind.
Welcome back. Some shots there of Jason White, currently sitting in 4th position. This is a wet day too of TARGA Tasmania and certain to play havoc as the field tries to run down day one leader Jim Richards. 9 stages in total, and it starts with a classic here at the side link. 14 kilometres of twisting tarmac with unforgiving rock walls on one side and near vertical drops on the other. The side link sets the tone for the day, with numerous mountain passes twisting through lush rainforest to the east coast. Then back to Launceston through the fast and open stage of Cranbrook and finishing with another street stage through Perth. If day one was an easy introduction, by day two the gloves are well and truly off.
Day 2, Stage 1, the sidling, and what had started as light drizzle yesterday has turned into fair dinkum rain. The stage is wet and treacherous. The first car's tiptoed through, but it isn't long before the carnage starts. Mark Crapper looping his BMW on an early sidling hairpin. That was just the encore, his rally ending a little further up the road. The same corner was finding out plenty of drivers, American Martin Hancock and Patrick Bowling spinning their Alfa. Les Ether following suit in the Datsun 1800. Even the pros weren't immune. Colin Bond giving navigator Murray Walker his first heart-in-the-mouth TARGA moment.
Well caught. Well caught. I don't know where I am with the steering lock.
Others were beyond salvation. The exotic Ultimate GTR, driven by Peter Hobson, would go no further, but his problems were minor in comparison to those of John Grounds and Carl Farmer, just 1 kilometre into the stage.
You okay? Yep.
As the rain continued to fall, the casualties continued to mount. 817, a Nissan GTR driven by Queenslander John Atherton, ending up on its roof. With a narrow 13-second buffer, leader Jim Richards was pressing on, but his choice of hard-wearing, dry-weather tyres made his car a handful in the wet. The big move came from Targa rookie Tony Sullins. In a Subaru with dirt road rally background, the New South Welshman was in his element. Teamed with UK-born co-driver Julia Rebet, who's navigated across Europe and Asia, and is currently teamed with Finland's Juha Kangas in the Australian Rally Championship. Rebet and Sullins were really turning up the heat on the leaders on the wet and slippery roads of day 2.
Oh, we had a ball today. The first stage, this is the first time I've ever driven on tarmac in the wet, so we took it fairly gently through the first stage. I spun, lost a few seconds, but nothing major, and then sort of got into it as the day progressed, and I could see the Porsches going off 100 miles an hour. I thought we've got to try hard to keep up with them. So we've been going pretty hard all day today and haven't had any dramas at all. So the car's flying, and we haven't got a lot of straight line speed, but we make up for it in the corners, and we're just trying to keep ahead of our border.
Running fourth, Tasmanians Jason and John White were also going well until a puncture deflated their chances. Some shocking luck, I believe, today.
Yeah, punctured 2 corners into the sidling, so we're probably 3 minutes down because 2 minutes for the tyre and 1 minute because we took a bit long getting through the sidling, but should be right. A bit more rain, we'll be happy.
The rest of the top contenders made it through the stage shaken but intact. The sidling made its mark on Targa 2003. Over the sidling, Tony Sullins was fastest by 4 seconds over Rex Broadbent, then Steve Glenney with Jim Richards and Barry Oliver 4th quickest. Overall results after the sidling stage has Jim Richards still holding the lead with Tony Sullins jumping 3 spots to 2nd. Glenney also jumping 3 places to take 3rd, and Brock falling back to 4th outright. The remaining morning stages were fairly tame by comparison, but not entirely without incident. A big dose of understeer sending Len and Gail Kaplan's Mustang into the bank. Peter Brock's relegation to 3rd had spurred him into action. Against logic, the 2-wheel drive Monaro was flying in the wet. Car 05 quickest on both the St Mary's and Elephant Pass stages, reclaiming 2nd place.
Long left 7.
It's a left 7.
Long left 7. Into right 8.
Perth was the final stage of the day, an easy to clean, spectator-friendly street stage, a formality. Stephen Richards' 6-sounding Monaro, the first indication of the drama to follow. Richards' car spluttered to a halt mid-stage. No mechanical problem, but a major tactical blunder. The car had run out of fuel. As Peter Brock swept through the stage, his trip computer showed 17 litres of fuel on board. But within sight of the finish, his Monaro also coughed and died. For Holden, who had committed so much to its Targa challenge, it was disaster.
Hey, I've had it. Nothing's what. Shit, it must be out of petrol.
Can we just tootle through?
No, it's out of juice. What's going on?
Anne found a guy who had 5 litres of premium unleaded in the boot, the right product too. It was a bit of mobile, thank goodness. And we tipped a bit in, and just enough to sort of get it going. We only put 2 or 3 litres in, I guess, if that, enough to get the fuel picked up in the fuel injection system, and away we went. Put in another 10 in to get back here, but it's a bit of a mystery to us all, and that cost us a lot of time. It's most unfortunate, really.
Peter, have you been running particularly light fuel loads the whole way along?
Well, we have, but we had a buffer of 20 litres. We started off this morning with 20 litres up our sleeve, and the computer shows we've used 63 litres at this even right now. And we've put in 60 litres, used 63, 20 litre buffer. My arithmetic shows me we should have 17 litres left, which is ample. But hasn't worked out that way. So there's obviously something has snuck into the system there that's caught us all out. Bit embarrassing for everyone, but hey, that's life, that's what happens.
The fiasco cost Brock more than 5 minutes, dropping him out of the top 10. Worse still for Richards, his penalty more than 17.
Pretty simple, cars don't run without
without fuel. I mean, it's we've just miscalculated somewhere along the day, and you know, it doesn't matter how good the Monaro is, can't run without fuel. So.
What do you make of those scenes, Jim?
What scenes are they, mate?
These Monaros up here.
What, can't they hack the pace, or is there something wrong with them?
Apparently they've run out of petrol.
Well, I got a bugbear. Well, our Porsche, we fill them up in the morning and fill them up at lunchtime, so we don't have to worry about that.
Father Jim, the main beneficiary, another flawless run, and car 919 was enjoying a lead of 55 seconds from Tony Quinn.
We've had rain the whole time. There hasn't been a dry stage, so we're very pleased.
Victorian Rex Broadbent was the big mover of the day, taking his non-turbo Porsche up from 6th to 3rd, 2 seconds behind Quinn.
I'm elated at being where I am. I'm not going to let it go to my head. We'll just drive the same as we are. If it rains, fine. If it's dry, fine. We'll take it as it comes, but I'm not going to change my driving style, and I'm not going to succumb to any pressure.
Hi, I'm Tony Sullins, driving the mighty little WRX 2003 Targa. I've been doing the Australian Rally Championship for the last 2 or 3 years, but this is my first crack at Targa. I've given away a lot of horsepower to the Porsches and Skylines, but I'm having a really big go. What I've done the last 3 stages, absolutely flattened the boards, as hard as we can possibly go. We've been jumping curbs and cutting everything and going like flat out.
And this is a 190 horsepower V6 engine. Colin's giving it everything it's got. We're up to the finish line and we go over it now.
Shots there of the one and only Murray Walker, hard at work alongside Colin Bond in the Toyota Camry Sportivo. One of the most recognisable voices around, he called the cut and thrust of Formula One for over 50 years. His Targa debut, a dream come true and a new experience for the 79-year-old.
4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Murray Walker is an institution. For 52 years, the unmistakable, excitable voice of Formula One racing. His Targa debut is alongside Colin Bond, the only driver to have won Bathurst, the Australian Touring Car Championship and the National Rally title. With their campaigning a V6 Toyota Camry Sportivo, a showroom category car prepared for the event by rally ace Neil Bates.
This is the Toyota Team Racing Camry Sportivo. This is a car prepared by Neil Bates Motorsport, and it's driven by Colin Bond and navigated by the legendary Murray Walker. Well, the Camry Sportivo is a 3-litre quad-cam BBTI engine. It's an incredibly powerful engine for the 3-litre engine. Actually, the only thing that we've changed in the Camry Sportivo for Targa Tasmania is the brake pads. It even runs standard suspension because the Sportivo already has sport suspension standard, and the car's going remarkably well in the showroom class. And I think today they're actually leading the class. So Colin and Murray are very happy, and we're incredibly happy with the way the Camry's going. The best part is we don't have to do much because it's reliable.
For Murray Walker, the responsibility of the navigator's seat proved a steep learning curve.
I'm just learning all the equipment because I've got the Terra Trip here, which I've never used. I've got the radio here, I've got a microphone here, we've got a camera here, there's another camera there, Colin's there. It's all topsy-turvy, but as time goes by, probably around about day 5, we'll have it right.
The pair gelled the further the rally went, the Camry running second only to the Holden Astra Turbo of Cameron McConville in the unmodified production category. Colin Bond privileged to a classic Walker call around the Symmons Plains circuit.
And here we are at the 4th stage of the day, and it's the famous Tasmanian racetrack at Symmons Plain. Colin Bond at the wheel of the Toyota Camry, and I'm sitting alongside him, and I'm going to now zero the Terra Trip as we go out onto the track. Now, the way the system works is that we've got a half lap to speed up for the one flying lap over which our time is going to be taken and compared later with the other car. So there's somebody nearly losing it on the hairpin as he passes us as we exit it. Now we go under the Alfa Romeo bridge here because of the damp road conditions, it's quite slippery in places. We've had one car go off already. Colin very wisely testing the brakes. He's been doing that on the approach to the Symonds Plain circuit to get some heat into the brakes so that when he really needs them, they're going to work. Now we've got the wet rain tyres on the back of the Toyota Camry. We've got the dry driving tyres on the front wheels of the Camry. As we come round, this is a very, very long sweeping corner. In a really, really quick car, it would be a very testing corner for us. Now, here we go, over the line now, and I'm starting the stopwatch. My board goes flying into the footwell as Colin selects a lower gear, and you can see him sawing away at the wheel as the competitor in front of us, who's completed his flying lap, leaves the circuit. Now, out of that hairpin bend, into this little right-hander, and then the left that follows it, a dab of the brakes from Colin up on the curb. Nice, you've taken the apex beautifully there. We drift out wide, around the left-hander, into the right. Now I'm watching the rev counter as I talk to you, underneath the Alfa Romeo bridge, and the revs are building as we go down to the hairpin. Now, this is the corner that's really going to test the brakes of the Camry. Colin goes up into fourth gear, and the revs die, of course, as he goes down through the gears, tight into the apex. Now we've got to get the revs really, really building here so that we build the maximum speed as we cross the line. Now I'm watching the revs rising. It's 4,000, 4,500, 5,000, 5,500, 6,000 revs, and this is a 190 horsepower V6 engine. Colin's giving it everything it's got. We're up to the finish line and we go over it now. And that is a time of 1 minute 18.35 seconds at Symonds Plains.
Yes, Murray Walker adding plenty of colour to this year's Targa. This is day 3 of the event and we're getting down to the business end. Yesterday's fuel debacle involving the Monaros of Peter Brock and Stephen Richards dropped them out of contention. It's a Porsche 123 at the front, Jim Richards, Tony Quinn and Rex Broadbent all fighting for the lead. Today the field migrates south to the capital Hobart. It's the day where the competition hots up. It's time to make a challenge or consolidate a lead. Grasstree Hill is the first stage of the day, often wet and slippery and tough to negotiate. Then it's south through the Channel District and Huon Valley, encompassing 8 deceptively difficult stages designed to make or break your TARGA Tasmania campaign. Almost 70 kilometres of edge of the seat driving.
Day 3, Stage 1, Grasstree Hill. After yesterday's deluge, good news on the weather front. The day's stages are mostly dry. No one was more pleased about that than leaders Jim Richards and Barry Oliver. Their Porsche set up for dry conditions and they find the first shot of the day quickest on Grasstree Hill. After a cautious start to the event, South Australian Steve Glenney began to find his feet and some speed. He'd made up more than a minute on the WRX of Tony Sullins, 34 seconds alone on the Oyster Cove stage. Glenney up to 4th outright and in hot pursuit of 3rd placed Rex Broadbent, just 11 seconds up the road. Cygnet is the longest stage of the day and heralded the first signs of trouble in what had been an incident-free day. Taking that theme up a level, Cameron McConville with a bronze medal winning sideswipe in the factory-backed Holden Astra Turbo. The silver going to Barry Foe at a Mazda RX-7. No doubt at all about the gold medal performance, Guy Beddington, a clear-cut winner in the Ultimate Coupe. Problems were not going away for US entrants Martin Hancock and Patrick Bowling in their 1960 Alfa Romeo. The service crew working the car over, firstly trying to find the problem and secondly trying to fix it. John Siddons and Graham Copeland had emerged as clear-cut leaders in the classic competition. They blitzed the field on day 3, picking up more than a minute over their closest rivals. Ian Morris was holding second in an Alpha GTV6, but was under siege from the Tirana of locals David Cooper and Heath Clayton, 22 seconds behind in third.
It's a bit dry for our liking. We think some of the faster cars will be catching us today, but yeah, we're just enjoying ourselves, going at our pace and see what happens towards the end.
That's not true. You're trying to win.
Well, we'd love to win, yes, we'd love to win, but some of those other cars out there are extremely quick, and I think that this is a standard car and we're going pretty well to be where we are at the moment.
Very much. David, big pressure drive from you today. How'd you go?
Went pretty good up until we got to Woodbridge. Snapped an axle at the start. Had to back off through the stage, so we probably dropped 30 seconds more than what we would have liked. Quick diff change, axle change, 30 minutes, we're back on the road within our late time, so we're pretty lucky.
So you've just dropped 30 seconds with that?
We dropped 30 seconds more than we would have liked, so we've dropped time during the day as expected, but you know, 30 seconds to pick up's a pretty big ask.
After yesterday's fuel embarrassment, Peter Brock started the day in 29th place, but after finishing no worse than 4th on all the day's stages, the Monaro had clawed its way up to 12th by day's end.
Keep plugging away. I won't drive any less fast or faster or anything because of where I am. That's not the nature of. I've actually gone to Bathurst a few times there and bombed out early on and got the car going, and I just go like I'm trying to win it. So that's just, I mean, it's just, why not? Here's the better road, here's the car, let's go.
Tony Sullins had slipped from 4th to 6th, the Subaru hamstrung by a lack of power in the dry conditions.
I've done the last 3 stages absolutely flat to the boards, as hard as we could possibly go. We've been jumping curbs and cutting everything and going like flat out. So poor little car hasn't got any more horsepower, and I've been trying to keep up with the big boys. So yeah.
It's fair to say you cannot go any harder.
No, that's it. We're going to go flat out all afternoon.
You're interested to have a look at the timesheets, mate. I noticed that I think this morning maybe a little bit slower than some of the big guys.
Yes, definitely. I was a bit disappointed, so I thought I'd have a go. We passed a Porsche in the first of the 2 stages after lunch, and we passed the Skyline in the second one, so I reckon we must be going all right.
Steve Glenney and Tony Quinn were locked in a tie for 3rd place. Rex Broadbent producing the drive of the day to secure 2nd outright in a 2-wheel drive non-turbo Porsche GT3. Rex, I guess one thing that must have been very gratifying for you today, you matched Jim's speed in the wet yesterday. We thought that might have something to do with the tyres, but today you've matched his speed in the dry.
I understand that's the case. Realistically, though, Jim isn't our target. He's got a gap on us which we know we can't catch. Tony Quinn would probably be our target, and we've got Glenney, who's very, very fast right behind us. So, you know, we just do what we can do.
There was another yellow Porsche drawing plenty of attention on the final stage of the day. Hands to Cordy's GT3 enveloped in a billowing cloud of steam, courtesy of blown heater hose.
Well, we're just trying a new model. It's the steam-powered Porsche, because it's better for the environment, like our in-ear gloves. But in the end, no, it's a split heater hose, and we'll just try to make it at the end.
It's a great event, probably one of the most prestigious events of rally on bitumen.
Saw it in England about 10 years ago. Been trying to come here every year since.
It's the greatest of road rallies.
Nothing compared to the TARGA Tasmania in Europe.
It's the kind of event that's not available to people in the United States because of the competitive aspect of it.
Only 2 events that had to be done. One was Bathurst, we did the 24 hours last year, and this.
It's motorsport down to the basic, really pure motorsport without any fancy stuff, and I really love it.
Imagine driving some of the greatest cars ever built on the stunning roads of Tasmania.
My boss always saying I have the best job in the world, and I think the boss is right.
Porsche has built its reputation on building the finest automobiles. Klaus's job is taking care of them as curator of the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart, Germany.
Not so many people like your son can go to Germany and visit the museum, and so we bring this museum to the people.
It's tradition to see Klaus on the roads of TARGA Tasmania in one of the museum's 400 cars. In 2003, the 1978 Porsche 911 SC Safari is tackling the rally.
It was really made for going through rivers, through the mud, across big stones, and this car was like a little bit a Porsche tractor, and but on a few sections very, very fast, more than 200 kilometers.
The car had represented Porsche's ambition to win the East African Safari, Klaus playing a big part in building and preparing the car for the rally. In 1978, it had a 45-minute lead after just one day. But second place was all the car could manage after breaking down in the mountains of Kenya. Klaus having to walk an hour with new parts for the car strapped to his shoulders. The one-off Porsche only ever competed in that one event. However, it seemed to bring its luck to TARGA Tasmania. Gearbox problems forcing Klaus out of the event and then on to the next one, the Mille Miglia.
Now, you may think that TARGA Tasmania is about having the best driver in the fastest car, but you'd be wrong. In fact, what makes TARGA so unique that there's a place for every conceivable type and age of vehicle. The historic and touring classic competition follow the same shorter course, and while the emphasis here is still competitive, there is definitely a more relaxed atmosphere.
John Lawson is the poster boy for the historic competition. A two-time winner of the category, he's back, this time driving a 1926 AC Amilcar Grand Sport. The car is valued at over $200,000 and its 2-litre supercharged engine develops a very handy 200 horsepower. The Lawson's competition comes in the shape of John Felder's 1930 Oakland 8 and a 1925 Vauxhall driven by Michael Hipkins. The Touring Classic competition follows the same shorter route as the Historics, but allows much younger cars. Philip Nichols is always a contender in the category, but his Targa ended with a blown gearbox early in the event.
It's making a lot of noise, so we'll take the gearbox out and see what we can do.
Second to Nichols last year, Brian Tithridge in an immaculate Jaguar XK140 was setting the pace. He was followed by the mini of Duncan Matheson, who made his way from 4th to 2nd over the final stages. Third in Touring Classic, a stock standard 61 Vauxhall Cresta, driven by Martin Utber. In the historic comp, John and Paul Lawson won on the bit, almost half an hour ahead of John Felder's Oakland. Michael Hipkins a further 3 minutes behind in third.
It was a much harder drive. This is a much harder car to compete in, but it was good fun.
This is day 4 and it starts right here at the Domain in the heart of Hobart. And as always, there's a big crowd on hand. Interest too on the road with yesterday's big movers, Rex Broadbent and Steve Glenney, moving in on leader Jim Richards. For classic and modern competitors, day 4 is where it starts to get really tough. 10 stages and 110 kilometres of challenging tarmac. After we leave the Domain, the field snakes its way northwest to Burnie. Next stop, 6 slippery kilometres on the Colebrook stage. That's followed by the historic and spectator-friendly town stage of Ross. The afternoon of day 4 is when things hot up. Lying in wait are 2 of Targa's most notorious challenges, the 37-kilometre Sathana stage and South Rihanna, 2 stages infamous for catching out plenty of inattentive teams.
Day 4, stage 1, Hobart. Low clouds and heavy dew didn't deter a big crowd gathering in the mist. The old road around the Queen's Domain, a slippery start for the second longest day of the event. Always a highlight, the town stage of Ross, the railway crossing, a popular viewing spot for obvious reasons. enough to stir Murray Walker out of commentary retirement.
So here we are at the beautiful town of Ross. It's about halfway between Hobart and Launceston, and it's the third stage of the day. The roads are damp, you can see the leaves are falling off the trees. It's a beautiful sight, and this is going to be a very sharp dash, mostly rights and lefts, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go, 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 and it's a straight dash down to the right-hander into Bond Street. That's an appropriate name, considering it's Colin Bond driving me. And now we're going up the short dash into the right-hander here. It's another 90-degree turn. Back slides out just a tiny little bit. Colin corrects it. It's a left, and it's a very, very hard left indeed. We're in first gear, up into second gear. Now, up a bit of a climb, we're going to swing right into, we're still in Bond Street, up into third gear. Now, a left-hander, and he goes across the railway crossing. This is going to be exciting stuff. I can see the railway crossing sign. There's a red and black umbrella, and way up over the hill. And into another tight left-hander. This is a very tricky one indeed. There's a very narrow culvert on the exit, and Colin misses it in a masterly fashion. Now we're climbing up, and there's a crest here, and the road goes right immediately after it. See what I mean? And we plunge downhill. There's another right-hander, and it's into Bridge Street, hard on the stoppers. The brakes on this Toyota Camry are extremely good. We've got about 190 horsepower V6 engine in front of us as we turn up to the left-hander, which leads into Waterloo Street. Nice bit of camber which helps us there. It doesn't turn away. We're going left into High Street to the next one, and you can see it's all action in this section. On the brakes, off the brakes, on the accelerator, lots of power. We're coming up to turn right into Park Street now. I'm looking across at the hills as Colin drops down another gear, wangs on the stoppers, turns it hard in. The spectators are looking at us, taking pictures all the time. Now here's another tricky one. This is a jump at the railway crossing coming up after this tight left-hander. Okay folks, get ready for takeoff. And there we go! Beautiful landing. Turn right back into Bond Street. The finishing line is in front of us. Stop the stopwatch. Great, lovely bit of driving. So that's another of the Targa stages completed, and there are still another 7 to go today. It's a long, hard day.
Gary Tierney took an off-road detour and was wishing his GT3 was equipped with four-wheel drive. The weather was deteriorating the further north the field went. Not good news for Jim Richards and Barry Oliver. They were struggling to match the times being set by the chasing pack. The wet was a shot in the arm for Tony Sullins. After a lean day 3, his WRX was back to the top of the timesheets.
We stopped at the last stage, and I was just talking to Barry Oliver, and we still beat him. We stopped to help the car in front because we thought he'd stopped for a problem, so we did really well.
Tony Quinn's chances took a dive on the Mole Creek stage. He dropped 43 seconds after hitting a bank. What happened exactly?
Too fast, wet road, green stuff beside it, onto green stuff, end of story.
The Sathana stage is the day's longest and one of Targa's standouts. As the rain pelted down and the fog settled, it was feeling every bit of its 37.4 kilometres. It was a case of tread lightly or pay the price, as Gordon Weimer found out. Craig Dean was running 17th on the road when his event came to a sudden stop.
Well, we just come around the corner. We're sort of doing about, I don't know, probably 70k, but it's got oil on it, and also stones that are washed onto the road. We just decided to go sideways, and we couldn't get it back into shape.
Steve Glenney was emerging as a wet weather master. He reined in Richards by 15 seconds on the Sathana stage, the gap down to less than a minute. Jason White was also flying, quickest on Ross, Simmons Plains and Mole Creek, but a blown head gasket signalled the end.
We were flying, we were making up ground hand and fist over the Porsches and everyone else in the field, so it's a bit disappointing.
South Rihanna is another long stage, over 24 kilometres, and proved to be a Targa watershed. Steve Glenney was an incredible 37 seconds faster than Richards and Oliver. He was now only 24 seconds away from the outright lead. It was the final stage for Tony Sullins, the WRX giving up the ghost with exhaust, followed by clutch, and finally gearbox failure. At the end of day 4, Richards still had the lead. Glenney moving ahead of Rex Broadbent to take second spot right behind Richards. Tony Quinn slipping back to 5th due to his off earlier in the day. Car 919 with a slender gap and 1 day away from a record 7th Targa win. In 10 years of competing, day 4, 2003 was one of Jim Richards' toughest days at the office. You got another gear?
No, we're going as fast as we can go. If he goes at that speed tomorrow and we go at the speed we're going, then he'll win.
The stage was set for the closest finish in Targa Tasmania history. Well, the big story of the day is South Australian Steve Glenney. Steve, a huge day for you guys on the road. We have you 15 seconds off the lead going into day 5. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, that is extraordinary. We didn't expect that. I mean, we just went out there and tried to keep our concentration to a maximum and just get through to the end, and we just let the times take care of themselves. But yeah, look, that's very surprising.
The times are certainly taking care of themselves. You've picked up 1 minute 10 seconds on Jim Richards over the course of today. Did it feel that fast in the car?
We felt as though we had a good run. We caught and passed quite a few cars, but yeah, I guess Jim, we both set out to just get through to the end of the day, and I guess we pushed a little harder than Jim, and we were able to get away with it.
Now the weather tomorrow, there's a long way to go, but the weather looks as though it might be a little bit wet. Do you think that'll suit you?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, going on today, I guess that's plays in our advantage. But I mean, Jim is the rain master, and I'm sure he'll respond tomorrow. So we'll just have to keep watch.
Now, 15 seconds off the lead, you have a legitimate chance of winning this thing. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a shock. I'm going to try and put it out of my mind for the moment and just get to the finish. And yeah, as I said before, just not worry about it too much and let the times take care of themselves.
All right. Well, there you go. The big story of the day. Steve Glenney, 15 seconds behind our leader, Jim Richards. Tasmanian Greg Garwood had also had a great day, making up 37 seconds to take 4th place.
Yeah, basically we wanted to do the same as what we did last year in Evo. We sort of just stayed with them. We stayed with them a little bit closer this year than what we did previously. But basically we just wanted to stay on about the 5th position and put a bit of pressure on the day and tomorrow. That's our game plan, so there we go.
I'm Vijay Angelo. And my co-driver is Julian Burke. This is our first attempt at Targa Tasmania. We're doing the Caterham Blackbird. We brought the car in about 3 weeks ago from England. It's the first of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. But we had all sorts of things go wrong today. Water got into our intercom so we couldn't do the pace notes, and the gear lever disappeared, and the intercom came back, the gear lever came back, and they both decided to go south again. So it was really exciting.
It's one of the rarest rally cars in the world, the 1985 Ford RS200 Evolution. Turbocharged with 500 kilowatts of power, 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in 3 seconds, faster than a Formula One car. lot of power and a big handful in the wet. Owned and driven by Virgin Airline executive Rob Sherrard, co-driven by Tasmania's Peter Roberts, a veteran of 9 TARGA Tasmanias. There were only 24 ever made, Sherrard buying the car in Germany and bringing it to Australia to continue its rally heritage. The gearbox out to lunch on the Signet stage on day 3.
I think that box came out of the German full-claim champion car, so it's probably had a bit of a thrashing in its life. Yeah.
Welcome back and welcome to a wet, slightly damp Helier Gorge. It's day 5 of TARGA Tasmania, the final hurdle to conquer. In the classic competition, we're set for a wonderful finish. Graham Copeland and John Siddons currently lead in their Datsun, but it's on its last legs. Let's update you with all the classic action.
Enjoying a lead of almost 2 minutes at the end of day 3, the Siddons-Copeland Datsun looked to be cruising toward victory until large clouds of blue smoke began to follow its every move. The car's engine had inhaled some valve stem seals. It was using more oil than petrol.
We're getting about 25 k's per litre at the moment. She's going pretty well.
That's oil.
That's oil, yeah. The fuel, no dramas with the fuel, but the oil's a little bit heavy.
It was still going but losing time. Second place Alpha driver Ian Morris cut the gap to just 31 seconds by the end of day 4.
It's our race. We've just got to try and go as hard as we can and see what happens at the end.
David Cooper was flying the flag for the locals, holding 3rd spot until the Sathana stage. The XU1 ending its target halfway up at Bank.
We pulled out to pass the Cobra down there, and he's moved over a bit too far. Looks like he's dropped his left-hand wheel into the dirt, shot across the road, and speared us off into here. So, through no fault of our own, we've ended up upside down virtually and out of the event.
The Porsche, driven by Jeff Taylor, taking over 3rd place. The Alpha of Hancock and Bowling was back on the road. Contamination in the foam safety cell of the fuel tank, the culprit.
Sathana onwards, the car's running great and it was a real treat. Those stages were a real treat.
At the start of day 5, the Datsun was full of oil. John Siddons was full of hope. Can you hang on?
Oh yeah, I think we can do it. May as well. Nothing better to do on a Sunday, is there?
After making up 1 minute 20 seconds the day before, Ian Morris knew victory was within his grasp, but was trying to think of anything but. Ever been in this position before?
We've been on the podium before, so yeah, we're not too worried about it. Bit of butterflies, of course, but we'll just see how the day pans out.
Certainly a great story unfolding in the classics, and potentially an even better one waits us in the modern competition. The scene is set for the final act, and what a scene it is. Just 15 seconds separates the master Jim Richards and the apprentice Steve Glenney. Like any good story, TARGA has left its best for last. Now let's take a look at the day ahead. Day 5 is an epic. 9 competitive stages: Helier Gorge, Mount Black, Rosebery, Strawn, Queenstown, and then the big one. The longest stage, Mount Arrowsmith, is almost 50 kilometres on its own. All this on the lonely roads of the West Coast. In all, 500 kilometres and nearly 150 kilometres of TARGA stages. The ultimate day of the ultimate tarmac rally.
Day 5, Stage 1, Helier Gorge.
Well, I know that day 4 was supposed to be a lot tougher than the rest of them, and it was. So if day 5 is tougher than day 4, I'd better keep my wits about me.
As the cars lined up for the longest day of the event, clouds hung heavy over the west coast. Rain would almost certainly spell the end of Jim Richards' long winning streak. At the wheel of car 806, Steve Glenney was staring down his demons.
Yeah, a few little butterflies, but no, we've just got to keep our concentration level high and get through to the end.
Jim Richards leapt off the line. The road was damp but not wet. It was clear the 6-time winner wasn't going down without a fight. The timesheets told the story. Richards fastest, 5 seconds quicker than Glenney through Hellyer Gorge, the gap out to 20 seconds. The points were split on Mount Black, both cars recording the same time. Richards picking up another second on the next stage, Rosebery. His Porsche the only car in the field to clean it. Glenney just a whisker behind. Rex Broadbent was holding steady in third, adding another 9 seconds to his overnight buffer of 45, ahead of fourth place to Greg Garwood. As the cars hit the Strawn stage, the skies were clear and the road was dry. Perfect conditions for Jim Richards, and he landed his most telling blow. He covered the 33 kilometres in 15 minutes and 49 seconds, a full 24 seconds faster than Steve Glenney. With 4 stages remaining, the lead was out to 45 seconds.
He nearly caught us on Strawn. He obviously had a blinder through there. Yeah, so I mean, we just got to maintain our own pace and just get to the finish. That's our plan.
We had a good morning, yeah. We come over the hills towards Hellyer Gorge, and lo and behold, it wasn't raining, so that was a bonus. So we had a good run through all the stages so far, yeah.
Looks like you've picked up, or you've put a bit of a gap in the chasing pack. That must be.
Yeah, we've been quicker than Steve on probably all the stages. But Rexy's right behind us, so you know, you can't afford to take it easy.
The classic competition was going down to the wire. New Zealanders John Kershaw and Jane Buckman in the Vauxhall Chevette were in a race for 6th place and were pushing hard on the Strawn stage.
That's okay.
For US entrants Martin Hancock and Patrick Bowling, their event had gone from bad to worse on day 5, the car limping to Hobart with a cracked cylinder head. The Siddons Copeland Datsun was amazingly still going, but its lead had been slashed. Ian Morris in the Alpha GTV6 had closed on every stage. By lunch, the gap was down to a solitary second. Still going, John?
Well, it's here. Now we'll have to try and get through to the end, but we'll see what happens.
What are you doing to keep it going?
Keep changing spark plugs before every special stage. Going through the transports, it fouls up the plugs because it's just sucking out valve stem seals. As soon as we get in a stage and get up it clears itself and it's fine.
Do you drive this thinking about a potential classic competition win?
No, you got to think about the next corner. That's all you can do. Worry about the times at the end of the day. If you're good enough or quick enough, that's good, and if you're not, that's too bad. But you don't get a victory or a podium finish by being on the side of the road.
Good advice, unfortunately going unheeded. Morris crashing out on the very next stage. Defeat snatched from the jaws of victory. The Datsun limped on to win, pushed across the finish line at Rest Point Casino. She got there, mate.
Oh, mate, she got there finally. It was a hard trip, but I think it's dead now, but what can I say? Good old car. Can't kill them.
Victorians Jeff Taylor and Lee Harper took second in their 74 911 Carrera. The Austin Healey 3000 driven by Brian and Linda Dermott making up 3 places on the final day to snatch third. The modern field headed for home. The Queenstown stage is famous for its 99 bends and lack of vegetation. If Steve Glenney wanted to beat Jim Richards, his run would have to start here. His time was good, but the silky smooth Richards matched it to the second. Mount Arrowsmith is the longest stage of the event, over 47 kilometres. It was Steve Glenney's last chance. Glenney covered the distance in a tick over 22 minutes, but it wasn't enough. Jim Richards went 20 seconds faster and set up his final winning margin. Winners in the classic competition last year, Rex Broadbent and Michael Godhere, were clean and fast on the final day. They held on to beat Greg Garwood and Mark Perry for third place in modern. A winning classic last year, third in the modern. It's and amongst some pretty good company. It's a very good effort.
Yeah, look, as I said, we're very, very happy, and not only third outright, first two-wheel drive car home, and I think under the weather conditions, that's reasonable.
Back next year?
Oh God, yeah. We love Tassie.
Steve Glenney had come closer than anyone to beating Richards on the road. Over a competitive distance of 464 kilometres, he'd fallen short by just over a minute. That's as close as anyone's got.
Yeah, no, we nearly made it. We tried our hardest, but just missed out.
Sensational effort from both of you guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, we worked well as a team, and Navigator was fantastic. He just didn't drop off the notes all week, and made it very easy for me.
Gives you a bit of a taste, I guess. Makes you hungry.
Certainly, very hungry. Can't wait to come back and have another crack.
Satisfied with second next time?
Oh, look, you know, to come second to Jim Richards is amazing. I mean, he's proven himself over the years to be awesome, so we're pretty thrilled.
Were you surprised with his times, particularly this morning when there was a bit of heat on?
No, not at all. I was waiting for him to respond. I mean, he always seems to find an extra gear whenever someone comes close, so no, we weren't surprised.
But he's beatable?
Yeah, well, I guess, but we haven't beaten him yet, so until he is, I guess we won't know.
The winners for a record 7th time, Jim Richards and Barry Oliver. They'd responded when pushed, dominating the first and final days of the rally for an all-the-way victory. Did you enjoy it more with a little bit of race pressure?
Yes, no, I enjoyed this one probably as much as any, because I think the conditions, the varied conditions, didn't totally suit our car, so we had to actually take the good with the bad. We had, you know, a whole day when we only probably won one stage, but we had to be close and keep in touch, and that's what we did, so, you know, it was good. Today we managed to just, as I say, eke out a bit of a gap, and it was good.
Last night we were under a lot of pressure, and the weather was always going to play a very important role in today's result. Fortunately for us, it didn't rain heavy. The roads were greasy at times and quite slippery, and I've got to say that Jim did an absolutely marvellous job today. I don't think it should be discounted, because it really was a tremendous performance.
You found a leg, you boys?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I don't know, it's just we work very well together as a team, and I guess after 11 years we know what each other wants or needs as far as putting in a good performance. I've got to say though, we were under a lot of pressure from Steve Glenney and Clayton Lang. They did a tremendous job.
Did you enjoy that aspect of it?
Yes, I think not only the competitive part of it, but the camaraderie between the competitors, that was very special as well. Because even though we wanted to beat each other, we were very conscious of the fact that we were competing in a very special event.
Well, certainly another fantastic effort by Jim Richards and Barry Oliver. Well, after 5 days, almost 3,000 kilometres and more than 40 stages, the 2003 TARGA Tasmania has been run and won. Jim Richards and Barry Oliver again reign supreme in the modern competition. The big question is, will they again next year? Well, one thing's for certain, in around 12 months' time, we're bound to find out.
Well, I would like you to admire my finisher's medal, because I'm very, very proud of it, and it's going to be hanging on my study wall in England when I get back. I thought it was an absolutely wonderful event. I'm full of reactions to it. Most of all, I think I have never, ever seen such enthusiasm everywhere for an event anywhere in the world. It's been quite incredible. Heaven knows how many events I've seen, and I've never seen the populace turning out, cheering everybody for 5 days. I've never been to Tasmania. I think the scenery is wonderful. I think it's a fabulous island. The event is absolutely unique, and the Camry that we've been in has been wonderful. So I've got no criticisms and a lot of praise.